what I'm getting.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that I want to say, guys, to everybody that's watching, this is going to be designed to be a like all-encompassing beginner fishing. And if you know anybody that's brand new to fishing or is just learning, I highly recommend, take this live stream, share it to them, try to get them in here. Live will exist on the channel after we are done. So, you should probably turn that off too.
I just now
I
did.
was just going to say, but this will live on after we're live on the channel. So people will still be able to write comments and things like that. And we will continue over the time that this video exists, which will probably be forever on YouTube. We will continue to address questions as they come into the comments. You don't necessarily have to comment while we're live for your question to get addressed. But I do want to say that this is going to be a real big Q&A. We've got, topics that we're going to cover, but I also want to make sure that you guys feel free to comment and slap into there any questions that you may have. I don't care if it's kokanee fishing, salmon fishing, fly fishing, plunking, definitely make sure to not be afraid to throw your comments or your questions in the comments. Too many Q words and C words. I'm kind of a goober sometimes. Okay, right. So, a little more introduction. I'm Joshua Pardee. I own the channel here at In and On the Net Fishing. As you can see behind me, I've done my fair share of winning lots and lots of fishing trophies from tournaments, and here's one from Clearback. I have basically the two. This one is from when I was a kid. I was winning tournaments clear back when I was 11 years old. That's proceeded into more accolades of today. You can see over here, I've got a professional jersey sponsored by lots of different people. The only reason that I even bring this up is I want you to know as a beginner that I have a plethora of information to learn about fishing, and I'm here at your disposal to help you learn. Now, on the same side of things, we've got, let's see, Jason. Yeah, I got it right here. We got old Jason over there. Now, notice that I got him on the couch, and I'm calling Jason Grandmaster Salmon. Now, if you are starting your salmon fishing journey, and I know that we got a couple of people in here that I told to come to this live that have salmon questions. Let's put it this way, man. If you started salmon fishing at, say, 30, and you were an extremely successful salmon fisherman, you would have a hard time out catching this guy right here by the time you were, dead, 80 years old, whatever, like when I say this as Grandmaster Salmon, this guy's caught a lot of salmon. So I got him in here
for 47 years.
47 years, he's been salmoning it up. And then right down here, it's kind of this way. There we go. We got Kevin, and Kevin is also, like I said, a plethora of information. He runs it's a YouTube channel and it's a Facebook group, and multiple different social media facets. It's called the Columbia River Plunkers Forum, and they specialize in plunking for salmon, steelhead, things like that on the Columbia River. But obviously, Kevin is also absolutely loaded full of information, trout fishing, bass fishing. The guy's been a fisherman for a really, really long time. I don't know. I'll tell you what, even though I can't hear you, I could still see when your lips are moving. You know what I'm saying? So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Kevin? Let them know your accolades and what you got going.
So I'm Kevin. I'm from Columbia River Plunkers. And, our job is to teach the new generation on how to fish out here. It turns into bass fishing from any warm body fish out here. Salmon, steelhead. I mean, I just did a trip and I just got back from pink salmon fishing on the Skagit. I mean, if you guys get questions on anything, I've been out there and probably done it. So leave a comment down below, and I'll answer any questions you guys got.
Okay, so I went ahead and I muted my microphone so that I could turn on my feed here and I could hear you. That's kind of a smart little way, I guess I can do it. I just have to make sure to mute my microphone so that it doesn't feedback and whatnot. It'll probably work out pretty good. Anyways, so let's start. There is so many different places that we could start beginner fishing. I see we have our first question, and I can go ahead and slap this up. Here we go. We got Chase, and Chase says, what would be a good rod and reel setup for all around salmon steelhead? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We'll take our time to all three address this question. That way you get all three expert opinions. Personally, I got one right back here. Now, I feel like, oh my goodness, if it's going to come to me, I might knock everything down in this process. Tell you what, I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut this line.
Nice, bud.
Okay. And I got to make sure to grab my microphone. Okay. All right. So here's my opinion. Okay. I really like this guy. This is a Okuma SST. I will definitely say that I think that the rod, in my opinion, rod is less important than it is the reel. And I mainly say that because the rod is going to have flex and stability as you're fighting the fish. But that can be achieved in a lot of different rods. I like Okuma. I like Ugly Sticks. There's a lot of different good go-to rods for salmon steelhead. I think, if I was going to go buy one today, I would have to say that an Ugly Stick is going to be one of those, like that thing's going to fight salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, bend it in half, torture the heck out of it. It's going to last the longest. So I'd probably recommend like a 9'6",
Right
somewhere
here.
in that range. Now, Jason's got a 9'6" Ugly Stick right there. And that's going to be a really good rod to use.
Yeah.
Okumas can be good too, but that's
Price
probably what I'm going to
effective.
recommend. Yeah, and price effective for
It's
sure.
less than
Now,
$100 for this rod.
now, as far as the reel goes, I really like these Okuma. That's where I am, like really like into the whole Okuma side of things. Like the Ugly Stick, they're made by Shakespeare, and let's just be honest. There's companies that cross mix between rods, reels, rods, etc. And Shakespeare has got a rod dial, like they really do. An Ugly Stick is an amazing product, and as they begin to dabble into reels, it doesn't get so good. I feel like their lane is mostly rods. Their successful lane. Now, on the other side of that, though, Okuma, I have to admit that a lot of
Okuma.
times when I find an Okuma rod fall short, like this one, the SST, I really like this one, and I reckon, if you got to go with Okuma, I would go with this. It's a 9'6" Okuma SST, and it's a good rod. And I like it more for steelhead than I do salmon. But Okuma makes an excellent reel. I feel like that is where their lane really is. They're a decent rod maker, but they're an excellent reel maker. Now on this, I have the Okuma Kmart HD. It's super, super smooth. Again, like I won't use anything else but this combo right here to go fight steelhead. I might change what I use to go fight salmon a little bit, but like this is definitely my steelhead setup right here. And you'll notice too that Jason over here, he's got that, what I'm talking about. He's got that, ugly stick Shakespeare brand reel, but he's got the Okuma, the Kmart HD over there. His is a little bit what
The C.
Oh yeah, that's right. His is the Kmart C or the the Kmart C. Yeah. Mine's a Kmart too, but mine's a Kmart HD.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Same thing with this rod.
if
same
you
rail.
buy a 9'6" ugly stick and you stick a 6,000 series Okuma, either Kmart HD or a Kmart C, I mean, dude, you're literally talking hundreds, thousands of salmon, years and years. And I think, dude, all of it from the reel to the rod, like all of it's going to last the test of time. So that's my opinion. I do know because, I mean, look at Jason over here, right? Like his salmon setups are ugly sticks
and
and
Kmart reels.
and Kmart reels. So I know he's going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and pop on over to Kevin, and we'll let Kevin answer this question. Go ahead, Kevin. It's all you. Floor's yours.
So for me, I like my Willamette Glass X11. It's great, especially in some of the areas where I try to catch salmon and steelhead because it's a shorter rod than a 9'6". 9'6" are great rods all the way around, but if you're trying to get in a tighter area, my 8'6" does the trick almost every time for salmon and steelhead. I'll even use it out plunking. I just got back from the Skagit and running and plunking with this 8'6" with a Okuma reel out on it. Freaking and running corkies. I mean, this rod has lasted me a long time. So me personally, I would love the Willamette Glass X11, 8'6" for drift, plug, and bait. I mean, it's great bobber rod. It's great drifting rod. It's great plunking rod. So that would be me personally.
Okay. Here, let me turn this down. I really got to figure out the whole being able to hear Kevin thing. All right. So Chase says, great info, guys. Thank you. You're very welcome, Chase. And I mean, that was a really good interlude for our starting topic too. And again, guys, if you have questions, slap them down there. We'll address them. I feel like that in the world of beginner, that's the first place that we got to go is we got to go rod reel, because that's where it's all going to begin. I imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, but I imagine that a beginner, because remember, I was born with parents that took me fishing and things like that. I was kind of, it just inadvertently, it was handed into my lap to be, learn this sport. But I imagine that, middle-aged, male, female, whatever, guy, gal, walking in to say, Walmart fishing aisle. And I know that the first place that their eyes are going is to a rod and a reel, because it's really obvious that without a rod and a reel, you can't throw a lure, you can't throw bait, you got to have a rod and reel first. So that's probably the first place that a beginner is going to start looking. That being said, as you've seen from this already, there's so many different types. When you're, I guess make sure when you're selecting a rod, you've probably learned from this last question that species specific absolutely matters. You're not going to want to buy a 12-foot monster rod. I mean, like, to give you an idea, here's my sturgeon rod. Oh, there goes my light. That's okay. Here's my sturgeon rod. It's 12 foot. Look at the size of the baitcaster. Even down to, it might be kind of hard in scale to really see,
It's
but
a huge rod.
this is a beast of a rod, right? Like, obviously, you're not going to walk in and you're going to go buy something like this when you're trying to go to the local pond and you're trying to go catch, 12-inch rainbow trout. I mean, that's just the reality. I would say that in the world of beginner fishing, trout is an amazing place to start. Out of not even the United States, like just globally, there is rainbow trout everywhere. I mean, they are probably the most common species that you're gonna run into, and that's probably your best species to try to get started into this world of fishing. It is a species that is not overly difficult. For example, if you started with salmon or steelhead, well, steelhead are considered a fish of 1,000 casts. Even us experienced guys are, Jason hates to fish with steelhead. I mean, they're very complicated creatures. Salmon can also be extremely complicated creatures. Trout is going to be a really good start baseline for the simple fact that they're not that difficult to catch. They're not that difficult to find. Places all over plant them. Chances are your local fishing pond has trout. So with that in mind, again, I would recommend an ugly stick. I do have one somewheres. Jason's gonna grab me an ugly stick. But I wanted to talk about this guy because it's the opposite spectrum of like the big giant rod. Here we have, this is an ugly stick. However, this is only I want to say it's a 33 inch, 36 inches. This is a little guy. Again, species specific. This tiny little rod is not necessarily designed for children so much as this is designed for when I'm in a tight environment on my kayak. If I'm ice fishing and I'm inside of like a little ice shack and I don't have much room. So again, species specific, size specific. So a good 6'6", which is, this isn't an ugly stick, but this is oh my goodness, it's stuck on my SSD. Here you go. So this is an eagle claw. And actually, I don't even think this one is, no, this one's a 4'6", but something in this range, 4'6" to about a 6'6". That's where you're going to want to be dialed in for something as specific.
2000, 3000 series reel.
Yeah, 2000, 3000 series reel. And we'll get into the reel topic as well. Now I want to talk about the other aspect of the rod. You're going to be looking at these rods and you're going to notice obviously giant rods like this guy, and you're going to notice, little tiny rods like that ice fishing rod I showed you. And then you're going to start looking at stuff that's within that range, that 4'6", 5'6", 6'6". But another aspect that you're going to see is light action, medium action, and heavy action. You're also going to see the in-between inverses as far as medium light, medium heavy. Here's the best way I can explain this. The heavier, the more it reacts like a 2x4, like a solid piece of wood. So your light action is going to be extremely flimsy. That's going to be able to see bites really, really easily. But it's also going to flex really, really hard. So like when you go to set the hook, it's going to bend so hard that not that much energy is going to transfer all the way down to the hook. A medium action is obviously going to be kind of right there in that middle range, and something that's a heavy action is going to be, stiff like a 2x4. And you can see how when you get into that heavy action, how seeing a bite is going to be a lot harder because it's stiffer. But then when you go to set the hook, almost all of the energy is going to transfer down to the hook at the fish. That's my basic take on rods. I know, again, Jason is kind of in like the same exact boat.
Yeah.
He's a little more grandmaster salmon than he is trout. I grew up more so in the high lakes where there's trout. So, yeah, while we go salmon fishing and Jason kicks my butt, we've been known to go trout fishing and I kick Jason's butt. So now I'm going to open it up over to Kevin. Kevin, give him your opinion on the whole just beginner rods,
So, me, for a beginner rod, especially for kids and everything like that, because I want them to come back and feel that action and everything like that. So when I take somebody out, I get them the 4'8" ugly stick. And you pick these up at Walmart. And 2 to 6 pound line, especially for trout. And ultra light, because I want them to feel that fish. And my weight, I'll use a half at the biggest, but mostly just a small little weight with 6 pound line. And you can use these straight for your power bait, special little 6s and 4s and stuff like that for these guys. Or I use where I could sit there and switch it up with 2s, 4s, and 6s. And you can basically use worms, salmon eggs, especially when you're out there trout fishing. Little Potski eggs, which is great out there, depending on what they want. You can use lures and stuff like that. But if you're just doing a basic setup for like worm fishing out there, I would definitely get a little rod, an ugly stick, 4'8", ultra light, 2 to 6 pound, ugly stick from Walmart. I mean, you can't beat them. They got plenty of flex. I've tried to break it on big fish, can't break them. Yeah, I mean, I definitely give that a shot, guys.
Okay, let's see. Let me bring Jason back into here. Let me turn this down, make sure that I don't have no conflicting audio. That was excellent, Kevin. Absolutely excellent. So I feel like we've kind of covered the topic of a reel. One thing that we do want to highlight, especially that beginner level aspect, is understanding, and I guess it does go back to the rod as well. Understanding the difference between spinning setups and bait casting setups. This is an important thing that will get overlooked, and beginners, will be out there in the field and they will have a bait caster rod with a spinning reel on it, or a spinning, vice versa. Let me show you the easiest identifier. So, all right, Jason, where is your bait caster?
Yeah, I never got it back.
Oh, yeah. Here, hold on 1 second, guys. You should still be able to hear me. No problem. I have fishing line around my leg and I'm carrying something. I should be able to go outside and you should still be able to hear me.
I got to fix a wind knot he put in my trout
here,
rod.
I'll just grab, let's see, where are you? In my car.
He borrowed my fishing gear. He put a wind knot in it.
Now
Now I got.
Okay, here we go. I got it. Yeah, sorry guys. I should have had this
useless.
in the studio.
That
for you.
thing's so tight.
That's okay. All right, here I come. I'm coming back. You're about to see me on the camera again. How silly, huh? Gotta love wireless microphones.
That's okay. They all know you messed up my rod.
Okay. All righty. So here we have, and this is a salmon setup right here, but here we have a bait caster, right? So if we look, here is the most identifiable on the fishing rod. If I take this guy off, see this little trigger right here? Okay. That's a spot for me to put my finger underneath. Okay. And then the bait caster reel goes right on top like this. Obviously, I screw it down, tighten it up. You can see how this trigger allows me to hold on to it as so, and my thumb is in control of the reel. Now, when we look at a spinning setup, oh my gosh. When we look at a spinning setup, notice, and let me take the reel off so that it's, just like we did with the bait caster. What do you notice? We've got no trigger down here. Okay. So this is a spinning reel. Another thing that we'll notice is if we take a look at the very first eye, and look at the size of this eye right here. I mean, I can stick my finger all the way in the eye. And if we look at the bait caster, down this way so you can see, is a much, much smaller first eye. Okay. I can't stick my index in there. I don't even think I can, I can't even stick my pinky in there. So those are going to be two identifiers, is the trigger down here on the bottom of the rod and the teeny tiny little eyes. That's going to tell you that this is a bait casting rod. Now, why this is important and why, you want to make sure to not put the wrong reel onto the wrong rod. Now, when I'm fishing this rod, the reel orientation is upward, right? And the line's coming out and the eyes are up on the top of everything. Now, that's because this rod's backbone is designed to be on the bottom here. Okay, so the rod can bend this way. Now, because on the spinning reel, okay, and let me put this reel back on because it's important for the whole idea of it. Okay, notice how the reel is on the bottom, okay, opposed to being on the top, right? So this rod, the spinning rod, its backbone is up here on the top, not on the bottom like the bait casting rod. So this thing is designed to flex this way. Now, if I was to take this rod and I was to take the spinning reel off and I was to put the bait caster rod onto the spinning reel, okay, just imagine for a second what's going to happen, right? Because when I put this on here, okay, the orientation of the eyes, right? Because the reel has to be sitting upward like this in line with these eyes. Well, this rod's backbone is right here on the bottom, but this rod's going to flex against its backbone when I'm fighting a fish. So that's a quick and easy way to break your rod, and it's going to happen either way. I mean, this rod is designed to be facing this way and bend downward. This rod is designed to be facing this way and bend downward. If we flip this orientation, I mean, this one here, if we put the spinning reel on here, I mean, you're going to immediately notice problems because you're going to have this crazy trigger that's designed for your finger down underneath it here. And now it's going to be like up here trying to be in the palm of your hand. And obviously that's not going to be comfortable. But more importantly, though, because we have these eyes facing in a downward position now, we're going to expect this rod to flex this way, and it's against its backbone. So it's just plain and simple, guys. Either one of these rods bent the improper way is gonna break it. I mean, you just have to imagine it's like you bending over to pick something up. You're designed to be able to bend that way. But if I asked you to bend all the way backwards to pick something up off of the ground, I think it'd probably hurt your back a little bit, right? So the same thing is happening with the fishing rod. Another thing before I put these away that I want to note on, and it's kind of a little counterproductive because I said that this right here is my favorite steelhead setup. But when choosing, for me at least, and I'm going to let these other two guys chime in on this too, because I think this is an important topic of conversation. For me, how do I choose whether I use a bait casting rod or whether I use a spinning rod? Here's the answer, at least in my opinion. I like to use bait casting rods when the target species that I'm trying to catch is large. And here's the reason why. It'll make total sense. When we look at this rod, the spool, the direction of the spool, the line comes directly off of the spool. So when I have a really large fish that is running, he is able to pull line directly off of this spool with very minimal resistance. Now, if I decided to catch that large species with a spinning rod, the spool is sideways, right? Like, and what I mean by that is if I grab this line right here, okay, I'm gonna turn it this way. If I grab this line right here, I have to pull it to the side to pull it directly off of the spool, right? The spinning reel is designed that it has the bail right here, okay? And really think about this. This line is going to go through this bail, okay? Because this is if I can get this out here, all right? This is how it works, right? There's a pinch point. We are changing the direction of the spool to a 90-degree angle, and then it's going down the line. So when a large fish is pulling line off of this, it has to pull it with a 90-degree angle and a piece of gear in between. Whereas when I have a large fish on this reel, it pulls it directly. Ooh, my bail is super. I don't know what I was fishing for last with this because my drag was way too tight. But the fish is able to pull this line directly off of this spool. So for me, the choosing between a bait caster or a spinner definitely comes down to the size of the animal that I am chasing. You can see how a 12-inch trout, that 90-degree pinch point in a spinning setup isn't going to matter too much. But you can imagine that the fish that I catch with this big bad boy right here, right? Like we want those fish to be pulling this line directly off of this spool. To give you an idea, this it's my sturgeon rod, but more specifically, because I have other sturgeon rods, this is for when we know we've got big sturgeon. You know, when our standard rods with 80-pound braid on them is starting to break off fish, and we know that we're dealing with some 10, 11, 12-foot sturgeon, that's when that rod comes out right there, because that thing actually has the capability to land one of those large fish. I don't always throw that every time I'm sturgeon fishing. I can't express enough that that's the trophy rod. That's when the big sturgeon are around and we're trying to get them. But that being said, you know, a 12-foot sturgeon, which that's a massive sturgeon. So I'm going to say more realistically a 10-foot sturgeon, an 8-foot sturgeon, okay? But still a big sturgeon. Dude, that's a 500-600-pound fish, you know? That thing needs to be able to pull line straight off of that spool, not have if I had a 600-pound fish and that thing was a spinning setup where it had that pinch point, I mean, it's going to weaken and chink the line. And I'm probably going to lose that fish, to be totally honest, just because of that gear. Have anything extra to say, Jason, about like spinning and bait casting and just that whole
Spinning
topic?
rods. I like to use spinning rods for casting lures. Bait casters, it's a lot easier to manage that bobber floating down.
True.
True.
Yeah, another good aspect.
Spinning reel, you got to open the bail, let line out. That bait caster, you just click a button.
Yeah, same thing. Like that ease of access makes a bait casting rod an excellent trolling rod too. Because you're able to just click the button, you're trolling on the boat, and you're letting it out. I can't hear Kevin. He's giving me this look like he's got some to add into this. So we're gonna let Kevin talk.
I agree 100%. Spinning combos are great for lures and everything like that, especially working the water. But if I was gonna run a bobber or anything, especially for steelhead and salmon in the creeks, I'm definitely going to run my bait caster straight through there, especially if I'm bobber dogging or if I'm, drifting or anything like that, just because, I mean, you're pretty much pinpointing that fish as it's going through, and it's just a lot easier, guys, especially because you don't want to sit there and try to mend your line with a spinning combo. It's more of a hassle. I mean, a lot of people do. Me personally, I don't like to. I just like to press the button and just let it go so you get your bait looking more natural in the water compared to a spinning combo.
Okay. Definitely. I mean, I agree 100%. Same thing, guys. Like if I'm running a bobber, man, like I'm always using a bait caster. Like at least like let me define that. When I'm using a salmon float, right? Like when I'm fishing the river and I'm using a slip bobber and I'm trying to mend line, it is way easier with a bait caster than it is a spinning reel. I mean, that's just the reality. Another thing, just kind of on that topic too, braid too, because your bobber's floating and you're trying to mend that line across the top of the river, and braid floats, so that's going to help you a whole bunch. If you're using fluorocarbon or monofilament, all of this sinks. You know what I mean? So obviously you're going to have a hard time mending that line and pulling. We're in beginner. We're going to be in beginner. Yeah. So I'm going to define that. Mending the line is just simply like the bobber's floating down and the river's going. So the river will kind of take your line in a big horseshoe shape because the river's pulling the line. Mending the line is to lift the line up and go tight again with the bobber and take that big horseshoe out of the equation. And the reason why you're obviously going to do this is because you're waiting for that bobber to go down, right? And when it does, you're going to react and set the hook, and the less slack you have in the system in between you and the bobber, the more effective hook set you're going to get. So, but again, so now that you kind of understand the concept of mending line, well, if that line is in that big horseshoe shape and it's floating up on the surface, it's pretty easy to pick it up off of the surface and straighten everything out. If you're running like a monofilament or a fluorocarbon, that's going to sink down underneath of the water. And when you go to mend that line, first you're going to have the tension of the line in the water and that water tension that you're going to have to work out before you get tight with the bobber. And one, it's harder to do. Two, obviously it's going to take you longer to get tight with the bobber to set the hook. For me, and I think both of these guys will agree as experienced salmon fishermen, you're going to move that bobber so much that your bait is just not going to react properly. I mean, the fish is watching the bait and it has its natural float down the river. And any kind of deviation in that, these animals are not stupid. That's going to turn them off and tell them, oh, something's wrong with that. That doesn't look natural. I'm not biting it. So monofilament is not your greatest bobber technique. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, like what Kevin's doing over there on the Columbia River, when you're plunking and stuff like that, you're trying to be on the bottom, right? So obviously a fluorocarbon or a monofilament is going to work better than a braid, because your braid's going to try to float and you're trying to be on the bottom, right? So that's just kind of I feel like the next introduction as we go out from rods and reels is line. The key differences between braid and monofilament and when to choose them are something that, again, is that beginner level, can be hard to navigate this. Biggest thing, braid floats, mono and fluorocarbon sinks. Braid does not stretch. Okay, braid just holds true until that bad boy snaps, right? Monofilament and fluorocarbon is going to have a level of stretch to it before it snaps and breaks. If you are, if you're like, say, trolling, your boat's already going 2 miles an hour, 1.8 miles an hour, dragging gear. Maybe you're going against a tide or a river current or something like that. Like, there's already a lot of tension going on down there. Then you have a 40-pound salmon come along and grab that thing, and it might need to have a little bit of a flex and give. Otherwise, it's going to turn out bad. There's definitely and you can mix the two. Like, if I'm trolling for salmon, and I think, again, these guys will probably agree with me, I want a good solid braid from my reel to my gear, but I want a fluorocarbon or a monofilament for my leader, which is what the fish is going to hit and pull on. If you ran a braided leader, I don't think it would go over. Like, I honestly haven't even done that before.
I do it all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty crazy, man, to be honest. I mean, me personally, I want the leader to have a little bit of a bend and flex, because I know it's going to get whacked hard. Another aspect that I feel like is important is color. That color is an extremely overlooked aspect. And I'll tell you guys, if you look back on the channel, I have a tournament I did. It's a kayak tournament on Lake Shasta. Okay. Now, the first day I fished the tournament, it was a struggle. I caught fish. I caught good quality fish. I logged some decent fish, and it wasn't that I was, in last place or doing terrible, but I just was not catching the fish that I wanted to. You'll notice if you watch that video, however, that on day 2, I absolutely crushed them, guys. And I crushed them so bad because it was a tournament that was controlled by the Tourney X app. And so all of us competitors had the ability to see the other competitors and see what kind of fish they were logging, how many fish they were logging. And when it was over on day 2, I had almost every single competitor that I faced up against come up to me after the tournament and say, dude, what was your secret? You went from logging only a few fish in day 1 to logging more fish than anyone else in the tournament on day 2. And the answer, guys, was the line. Lake Shasta is extremely clear. And I was just looking over the side of my kayak. I was running a 8-pound monofilament, and I was looking over the edge of the kayak, and I was just noticing how even 20, 30 feet down, I could still see the monofilament. And I thought, well, if I can see it, then the fish have to be able to see it. So what I did was I bumped down from an 8-pound to a 4-pound. Now, that did make it to where when I hooked quality fish, it was a little more difficult to land those fish. obviously, because I'm trying to catch 5, 6 pound largemouth and spotted bass and smallmouth, and bass are tough. And 4 pound is, let's be honest, 4 pound monofilament fish and trophy bass is like that's asking for trouble. It really is. They snap that stuff real quick. But how am I ever going to catch that trophy fish if I can't even get that trophy fish to bite? You see what I'm saying? So I switched to a 4 pound monofilament. I started almost any time I presented to a bass, they were willing to bite it. And sure, I broke some off and I lost some, but I caught a lot more fish bumping down to that. But sometimes it's not always just the line diameter so much as I'm going to point out to you here that this guy right here is a clear. You can see right there, it says clear. Okay. And then, like, for example, this braid right here, it should be, I guess it doesn't say on it does say on the box, I promise, even though it might not say on the spool here. I want to say that this braid, if we look at it there, I think it's olive green. Okay. And they make line in every different color you can imagine. If I'm bobber fishing and everything's floating and I want to be able to see it, right? You can go high vis colors too, like yellow or green or orange or things like that. I wouldn't recommend doing that if the line's down under the water for the fish to see. But obviously, if you're floating a bobber, right, all of the lines laying on the top of the water floating. And so there's not, too much of a disadvantage to be able to have that high vis line. But you're going to want to try and pay attention to color as a beginner. I mean, even, let me tell you again, like I said, even as an intermediate fisherman, an expert fisherman, a lot of times line is extremely overlooked, the color of the line. Try to match it. North Umpqua River is an emerald green. I'm going to want to use like an emerald green or an olive green in that, but then if I'm fishing the Alsea River, and everybody always gives me a hard time for this, Alsea, however we want to say it. Point is, that river has a tea stain to it. So I'm going to want something a little more darker brown, to match that blend. I'm going to open it up, let these guys talk about line. Jason says he doesn't have anything to add to line, but let's give Kevin his opportunity to add to line, because I know there's plenty to say about line.
No, so Josh made some very good points on line, especially in mono. Matching is, when I'm looking at river quality and stuff like that, you'll hear the term people say steelhead green. And if you look at the water, it has like this kind of green tint to it. I'll start running, green line straight in there. Kind of steelhead green looking line for mono. And then if the water's clear, I'll run either a blue, depending if it's got that bluish tint. I'll run, sit there, blue line, straight in there. If the water's really clear, I'll run white in there. And, line, it gets overlooked on a lot of aspects. Because depending on what fishery you're running, lighter line, if a fish is getting pressured a lot, it's always good to jump down a little bit on the line, because maybe they could see it, especially if you're out there and you're a beginner. So jumping down a little bit on the line helps a lot instead of running real thick line, because they could see it. But yeah, if you're looking at an area, definitely choose the line that's going to be best suited for where you guys are fishing.
Yeah, look, I just wrote a comment there. Like, dude, I use a 12 pound monofilament leader when I'm fishing for 40 pound salmon, guys. Like, Is it going to be harder for me to get that big old salmon in when I have, see what he's got, 17?
I got 17.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, sometimes, and I only bring it up because when you're in that beginner level and you're just learning this sport, you feel compelled that it's like, oh, well, I'm going fishing for fish that are relatively 40 pounds. So obviously I should have a 40-pound line, right? Well, I got news for you. Like, if you go use a pound leader for salmon, you are not going to catch a single salmon. I promise you. Like, that is just way too big of a leader. You're going to need to use something like I do, a 12-pound monofilament. A lot of guys that even go with a 10-pound fluorocarbon. And, we still land those 30, 40-pound salmon. I mean, it's just going to come down to having a proper drag set and letting the fish play, and that should be how it is. I mean, if you're going out there and you're going to catch these fish, if you're only after meat, the Costco River is always putting out.
Yeah.
They have every species that you can imagine. They're going to have steelhead, they're going to have salmon, they're going to have halibut, they're going to have everything you want. Tilapia, trout, you name it.
Octopus.
And the Costco River is a guarantee, okay? But if you're going fishing, you should not only be looking for table fare, right? But you should also be going out there for the experience and feeling that fish and, having fun and playing that fish. Nobody should be going out there and hooking one of these fish and just literally peeling that fish with no fight whatsoever and just run it straight to the net. I mean, one, you're likely to lose the fish if you're going to bully the fish like that. Two, it's not going to be too much fun. You're not going to enjoy it nearly as much as letting that fish take runs and whatnot. And I only say that because if you're already out there to do that, you're already out there to enjoy the fish, let the fish run and enjoy that aspect of the fight with that loose drag, let them peel line and whatnot. If you're doing that, then a lighter diameter line is not going to matter, because by the time the fish tries to turn or run or give enough energy that it would break that line, the drag's going to engage and the fish is just going to take line instead of breaking the line, right? So, yeah, line is, I mean, I will be totally honest. I think both of these guys will agree with me. If there's anything that you take from this live stream, take the line aspect. I mean, rods and reels can really vary, and you can get away with catching small fish with a big rod or catching big fish with a small rod. That's one of my favorite things to do. You know what I mean? Like, come on, go take this ice fishing rod right here, and like, how much fun is it to up the game and go try to catch a 4-foot, 5-foot sturgeon on this little 36-inch rod? Like that's.
How about
that's later when you're not a beginner anymore and you're looking for just the
coho? I challenged you with
everything. Yeah, Jason challenged me one time. We had this really good coho fishery, and there was a little rod inside of Big 5, was it? And it was called the Mighty Mite. It was like a 18-inch. That's right. It was an 18-inch rod
with
and
6-pound test.
And he challenged me. We were catching these coho like crazy on this river system we were working, and he challenged me, hey, you think you can catch one of those coho on one of those little Mighty Mite 18-inch rods? And of course my immediate reaction was challenge accepted, which I don't have it up right here right now. I could pull it up, but I took a picture. I totally succeeded, and I got myself a coho on that little 18-inch rod and pulled it off. Looks like Kevin might have had to go. That's okay. If he's still able to join, he's got the link. He can just pop right back in. So we might see him again. We might not. But yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that you can really take from this whole entire thing, pay attention to your line, the color of your line. Oh yeah, he said his phone died. He just let me know. So yeah, pay attention to the color of your line. pay attention to the diameter of your line. That's the pound test, basically. You know, it'll say on there, this one says 30-pound test right here. I don't know if you can really see that. This one's real big and prominent right here. You
Yeah.
can see it says 20
That's
pound
something you
test.
never mentioned.
What's that?
Braid test compared to mono diameter.
Oh yeah. So Jason's pointing out a key aspect. So if these are different sizes, but if we were to compare, say, 20-pound braid to a 20-pound fluorocarbon or a monofilament, their diameter
Dramatic.
is a big difference. And where that's going to make a difference is how much line you can fit on the reel. I can see right here
6-pound diameter.
that this 30-pound braid has an equivalent diameter of an 8-pound monofilament. So that means that, you know, it's a lot thinner, basically. You know, it's a lot thinner, whereas a 30-pound monofilament would be extremely thick. The thicker the line, the more or less you can fit onto a reel.
And the harder it's going to drag through the water.
And the harder it's going to drag through the water. Yeah, because being thicker and larger, it has a larger surface diameter, right? So, yeah, that's going to, you know, that's
mono's a lot stiffer than braid too.
Yeah, mono is a lot stiffer than braid. You know, these are the things that you're just going to kind of try to understand what you're fishing for, how you're fishing, whether it's a lake, river, the ocean, you know, and try to understand that, whether you need something that's more flimsy or more stiff or needs to float or needs to sink.
Abrasion resistant.
Abrasion resistance, the color of it, you know, there's a lot to unpack in line. And it is a key difference. Looks like, I mean, I have Kevin, but I don't know.
He'll come on if he comes on.
We joined back in the studio, but I don't see a camera feed from him. So I'm gonna go ahead and take him away there until I can at least see that he's got a camera feed coming. Oh, he popped out again too, so that's okay. But yeah, I mean, really, you should spend a lot more time thinking about your line on that tackle aisle than anything else, in my opinion. You know, spend more time thinking about that than the rod, the reel, what lure or bait you're gonna throw. Line is gonna make or break the difference. You know what I mean? I have literally sat with expert fishermen that you'd know what they are doing and caught them in that scenario of, you know, a line type situation where, you know, maybe we're salmon fishing or something like that, you know, we're trolling dragon plugs or whatever. We've gone 2 hours, no bites, anything like that. I start really thinking about it, you know, and I start looking at like the leader or whatever, and it's like, oh, hey, whoa, this leader's really thick. What is this? Oh, it's a 25-pound monofilament. Well, heck, man, that's a pretty big diameter leader for those fish to be able to see. They got good eyes, you know, and made the decision to switch to 10-pound fluorocarbon for the leader, and in 5 minutes started just banging fish, you know. And I'm just pointing that out because even us experienced guys, sometimes, you know, we overlook those little simple subtle things like that, and line is a super overlooked aspect to it. I think that's about all it got really on line.
Yeah.
You know, we've covered line really well. So we've covered, you're just joining us, you know, we've covered rods, we've covered reels, we've covered line, all sorts of stuff like that. Just in this beginner level fishing.
Kevin's on chat.
Hmm?
Kevin's on chat.
Oh, there's Kevin. Oh yeah, my phone died. This is Kevin. Here, let me respond to him really quick, guys. Tell him that's okay. You can use the same link Oh my goodness, I gotta set those down. You can use the same link
He
on
grabbed his
any
wife's phone
device
or something.
Right. I want to note too, guys, that if you have like kokanee questions too, I got my boy Tyler from Little Captain's Kokanee is in the comment section. I did try to get him to join us here on the video feed and everything. He's kind of doing the whole day job work thing. Sorry, buddy. I wish you were at work, but he is trying to hang out in that comment section. If you have any like kokanee specific, I mean, Tyler is extremely versed in a lot more than just kokanee, but he does have a tackle company, Little Captain's Tackle, that does. I can't even say that it like is specific for kokanee because I mean that gear catches Mackinaw, bull trout, and rainbow trout and brown trout. And I mean, I've caught bass. I've caught brook trout. I've caught a lot of different species on Tyler's gear. So obviously it works for numerous different things. And he's also got like a line of plugs and spinfish type looking guys. They're called typhoon lures. So Tyler's also really, really good as far as oh yeah, hey look, we got Kevin back. Look at this. Hey, there he is. We'll add him back in there. Here
How's
he
it
is.
going, guys?
I'm not sure what he's saying, but I'm sure he's probably saying something to the tune of "I'm back, guys. My phone died. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. We've got a question from Chase. Yep, pull it up here. Chase says, so just started kokanee fishing, and I'm really looking forward to spend more time into what type of line and trolling
That's a
speed.
loaded question because
with
there's so
what
many
weight
variables.
setup. Yeah, that is a loaded question right there.
There's so many
But it's
variables.
a valid question. It's a
Very valid
great question too. There is a scale. There is a chart for speed versus weight size
versus
how far out and how far down that will get. Obviously, from me explaining that with so many variables,
line size.
it's very dynamic, But I would say that my go-to is a 1.1 trolling speed.
Yes.
That's a really, really good kokanee speed. Sometimes the kokanee want it a little slower.
Or faster.
Sometimes the kokanee might want it a little bit faster. But if you can hammer in the 1.1 or 1 mile an hour chart, it's going to get you pretty close when it comes to running 0.8 miles an hour or all the way up like 1.2, 1.3 miles an hour. I don't have the chart right in front of me. It's easy to Google up. Just Google like, as a matter of fact, here, I'm just going to do this because this has the capability here where I can screen share and I can, oh wait, here, hold on, let me see. I can open a new tab and I can pull up this chart and then I can screen share it to the live guys so that we can all see it. Let's see, 1 mile per hour weight chart. That's what I'm going to Google. It's probably going to show it to me. Yep, here it is. This is literally the one that I used. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm
Is it the orange one?
Share this. I'm pulling it up right now. We go screen share. And we want to share this. Oh, did it not? Okay, here we go. Let's see here. Come on, why is it not opening?
Really? Which one do you use?
Hello. Maybe I open this in a new tab.
Oh, easiest thing I'd say would be get
okay,
it downrigged.
let me. Let's see here. Let me try that again, guys. Sorry, I'm trying. Here we go. Is it this one? No, this one. That's the one. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is the chart that I like to use. Now, this chart is for a 1.5 mile an hour trolling speed. But you can kind of see how these charts work here, right? So with 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce, 2, 3, 6 ounce, you can see how many feet back from the boat running at 1.5 miles an hour and about how far you are going to get down. Obviously, not everybody has the ability to purchase downriggers. They are an expense. Downriggers do make this whole scenario a heck of a lot easier because you're using 10 to 12 pounds of lead on the downrigger. Just go ahead and force you to be at whatever depth, no matter your speed. And I will say that, as you start to go much, much faster, it's not like a 12-pound downrigger bolt doesn't slightly lift up a little bit when you're going really fast. Like sometimes when I'm trolling for Mackinac, I'll troll at a good hot 3.5 miles an hour, 3.8 miles an hour. And even at that, my 12-pound downrigger ball is definitely coming up a couple of feet, but it's never going to be any more than a couple of feet. This chart is going to be for your no downrigger, doing a inline, setup and whatnot. You can see there, like, if we're wanting, like, let me put this into perspective here. So, Kokanee, we're looking at like 1 mile an hour, right? Not 1.5. But we can still use this chart, and I really do out in the field all the time. I got this chart on my phone. I know Tyler's got this chart on his phone as well. We can see here like 1 ounce, you know what I mean? And if we've got that 1 ounce all the way 100 feet behind the boat, that lure is only getting down 17 feet. Now you can see how if our speed is dropped a little bit, I'm going to imagine, like, let's say, I'm just going to kind of use simple math skills, just quick off the top of my head here, So if we're going 1 mile an hour and we've got 1 ounce of lead, we've got it back 100 feet, we're probably going to have that lure somewhere in the range of 20 feet down to 22 feet down, somewhere around in that range. But these are excellent charts, guys. I totally just Googled up 1 mile per hour, 1 mph, right? Abbreviation for mile per hour. I just did a 1 mile per hour weight chart, and this was literally the first chart that pulled up, which is my favorite chart out of all of them, to be honest. But you can use that to kind of gauge where you're gonna be at. I see I got another
8 miles an hour. I can't be right.
0.8 miles. Okay, so I was using a 3 ounce trolling weight, about 0.8 mile per hour, and a flasher with a hoochie from Little Captain's Tackle. Didn't have any luck, and was using a green 10-pound mono mainline.
Does he have a fish finder? Where were the fish?
Yeah. I mean, that would be the first thing that I would say.
20 feet, the fish are 80. He's not going to
get Yeah, exactly. But at judging off of this chart, okay, like, let's just kind of, first of all, I'm not sure. Maybe you could throw in the comments really quick, Chase. I'm not sure about how far behind the boat you had the line out. And I will say, I do want to say really quick that, like, if you don't have a line counter on your rod, what I like to do is I will aim the tip of the rod down, and I'll open up the bail, right? And I'll like pull forward at like a 10-foot interval, and then I'll let the lure catch up to that, and then I'll pull it another 10-foot interval, and that'll kind of allow me to know in 10-foot intervals or 5-foot intervals, if that's what you'd rather do, kind of an idea of how much line I have out, even if I don't have a line count. Okay, all right, so he says, yes, I had a fish finder. I was at Paulina. They were about 30 feet deep. He's got a line counter, and he had it about 100 feet back. Okay. All right. So he's got 3 ounces of weight. He's got it 100 feet back.
He was
At
definitely
at
lower than 13 feet.
1.5 miles an hour, man, that's already 42 feet down. But you were going slower than that. You were going 0.8.
He was probably running
So
60
yeah, I
feet.
mean, maybe even deeper than that. I think that you may have had that gear somewheres around a good 65, 70 feet.
Yeah.
deep. So you, my friend, were sitting way underneath of those kokanee.
He was going for the brown
That's what
trout
was
under the
going on.
kokanee
Yeah,
balls.
yeah. And always keep in mind, guys, that fish tend to look up, not down. They can look down. It's not like they don't look down,
But they
but
look for
most
fish
of their
against the sky.
orientation, yeah, they're sitting there and their eyes are looking up. So if the kokanee are at Chase says that chart is awesome. Thank you. Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, just having an understanding of where your gear's at, what your gear's doing makes a world of difference. There you have it right there. You're wondering, how come I didn't catch any kokanee, and now that we've kind of broken apart the math and we know that you were probably 70 feet down while the kokanee were 30 feet down.
Yeah.
I can almost assure you that it probably had nothing to do with what gear you were running or anything like that. It had everything to do with the fact that you were down underneath of them and they just weren't able to see that gear.
Yeah.
But fish look up, guys. So, if I'm seeing that the kokanee are at 30 feet, I'm going to want to probably be more 20 feet, 25 feet, especially somewhere like Paulina Lake where he's been fishing. He said he did catch a couple of brook trout, and that makes sense because
Brook
those
trout
brook
run a little deeper.
well, those brook trout are eating those kokanee too, so they're going to be down underneath of the kokanee because the
Yucking up.
kokanee aren't looking down, and they're going to be underneath of those kokanee trying to ambush those kokanee.
Yeah. I
I
go
wanna
a
tell-
little bit lighter weight.
Evan, I want you to know, man, that if you have anything to chime in too, just because I can't hear you, that they can hear you, and if I see you like talking, I'll quit talking.
Yeah, for him, I would like start out with like 1 or 2 ounce weight, strip the line out, make a pass, strip out 6 feet, make a pass, strip out 6 feet. So that way he's gradually dropping it down to where the fish are at.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point that Jason's throwing out there is just kind of changing that type of stuff. But a chart definitely helps a whole lot, And again, I recommend take this chart, search it up, guys. Download it onto your phone, get it inside the gallery of your phone. That way, when you get out there and you're out where there's no cell reception or anything like that, you're not trying to Google and re-pull up this chart. You've just got it inside your gallery, and you have the ability to
3 ounces, 0.8 mile an hour, 10-pound mono. He was dropping down.
Yeah, he was
He
way
was
deeper
way
than those
below the
kokanee.
fish.
Way deeper than those kokanee. Here, I can
Started 20
get rid
feet
of
out,
this.
then go to 30, then go to 40, then go to 50.
Yeah.
Change your weight size because you don't need a 3 ounce weight to go down 30 feet.
Yeah, no doubt.
1 or 2 ounce weight will take you down there.
I'm gonna turn this up so I can actually hear. What's going on over there, Kevin? I feel like I haven't gone to you in a while.
Oh, nothing much. My phone's about.
I lost the page.
I was just listening into some great advice from both of you guys on coping. Okay. Yeah, you're definitely fishing way below the fish, and like those guys say, at 20, work down to 25, 30, and eventually you find where those fish are schooling up at, and you hold it steady right in there, you're going to be banging fish all day.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I can't express enough that being let me turn this down. Being above those fish is extremely important, and it in a lot of aspects of fishing that is the case. I'll give you another great example. So if we are out and we're salmon fishing and we're using bobber, right, drift and egg, okay, so all right, so there was a time where I had a small. I mean, don't necessarily like have a bad rapport with them or anything. I just kind of stopped doing stuff with them. But I had a sponsorship with a company called Deeper. Now, Deeper is a castable sonar system that connects to your phone. There's a free plug and pitch for Deeper right there. They're excellent. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely love them. Deeper gave me
I
a
love
few
one
of them. We
Deeper.
use them all the time. A Deeper, if you're here, if you're listening, like send me another, one of the newer Deepers. I'll start using that again and start pushing that. to
Send me
people.
one.
Yeah, they're good. They're
I'll
good
take
products.
two.
Check it out. Here's what we would do. So me and Jason would go down to a spot that we like on the Rogue River.
Yeah.
Okay? And
36 feet deep.
we know that the salmon are there. But the question
They're
is,
jumping everywhere.
where are the salmon in the water column? Because this hole that we're fishing is a deeper hole. It's
36 feet.
36 to 38 feet, depending obviously on how much water the river's got. But in that 38 feet column of water, the salmon could be a foot under the surface. They could be 12 feet under the surface. They could be 20 feet under the surface. They could be all the way down on the bottom at 36 feet.
And a lot of times we see them, they'd only be in a 4-foot stretch of water.
Yes. So
in
what
the
we
water
would do is we would throw the Deeper and we'd float the Deeper through the hole that we're trying to fish. Okay. And we would look. And although we would see that salmon would be up high and down low and, all over, like Jason was saying, you could see the general consensus of where the overall group of fish was hanging out in the water.
17 to 22 feet, something like that.
So then we're taking our bobber stoppers for our bobbers, and we are
14,
switching
15.
so that we're right in that range and we're drifting right through those fish. But the reason I bring this up, if I know that the salmon are at 17 feet deep, okay, I'm not going to put my bobber stopper 17 feet. I'm going to put my bobber stopper more like 12 feet deep. Like, first of all,
your eggs
my
hanging down.
Bobber is not where my eggs are.
No.
I have another 3-foot leader underneath of that bobber that has the eggs. So I've got to accommodate for that 3 foot of that leader. But more importantly, what I'm trying to drive at, if it is the exact depth that the fish are, here's what happens, guys. Your bobber's drifting along in the river. Okay. And when a fish grabs it, you're not really seeing any reaction in the bobber. The bobber then kind of goes past the fish because the river's pushing it, and it's going to kind of slowly turn sideways.
Yeah.
Like it's caught on something. Okay. And eventually, with the fish on it, if the fish keeps it in its mouth and the river current pushing on it, eventually the bobber's going to lean all the way over and it is going to go underneath the water, letting you know that there's a fish there for you to try and set the hook and hook the fish. Okay.
Yeah.
But think about this. If I deliberately set my system up to where I know those eggs are 2 feet above those salmon, the salmon's going to come along. It's going to lift up to come to the eggs. It's going to grab the eggs, and then it wants to return back down to all of its buddies. And that's going to make that bobber on the surface go straight under the water. It's going to be a quick reaction. I'm going to react quickly. It's just 10 billion times better to be a little bit above fish.
Yeah,
let the fish come up to the gear and drop back down. Even if you're trolling, you know what I mean? Like, even if you're trolling and everything is directionally in line, like, it's still better for that gear to be a little bit higher, and those fish are going to lift up. They're going to grab that gear, and they're going to try and go back down to where they're at. And that's going to make more reaction on that rod, showing you that you have a fish, right? I seen Kevin was just really shaking his head. Yeah, you're at, absolutely right. Kevin, I mean, what do you think? Like, when you bobber fish and stuff like that, is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah. So when I sit there and try to bobber fish, I'll sit there and I'll even put a split shot about 8 inches from my hook. and especially if I'm running like a sand shrimp or, you know, coon shrimp or whatever, so I could drop it as fast as I can, especially running through the drifts, instead of having it kind of free float down. I want it, if I want it in a spot, I want it to drop quick and run that as fast as I can straight through. Because a lot of time too is when you cast eggs and stuff, they'll sit there and float upward, and sometimes you're missing that drift, especially where those fish are, because water temperature determines on, you know, how your fish are going to sit in that water. If they want it that cool water, and it could be 17 feet, 18 feet, 19 feet. It all varies. And so I'll put a split shot and I'll drop it right where those fish are. I mean, as fast as possible, and let it kind of coast right through them about 12 inches to 8 inches from right where their face are at, and wait for that bobber to go down.
You got to get it down there quick, and if you only got a 50-foot run to fish, you got to get it down there in the front.
Yeah, I mean, there's a spot that I like to fish on. Why not? I'll tell them, on the North Umpqua River, and there's this pocket that the fish sit in, and it is like right behind a heavy, like, it's not considered a waterfall, but I mean, it
It's
might
white
as well.
water.
It's white water, and it's dead. And the fish are hanging out in this super, super deep pocket right underneath that. And over there, as crazy as it sounds, you know, a lot of places that we go do this salmon bobber fishing and whatnot, we're generally using like a 1 ounce salmon float or smaller, you know. And this is like one of the only places that I know of that I've got to get, I got to order them online, because I want a 3 to 4 ounce salmon float. And the reason why is because as you're coming off of that whitewater heavy, the fish are in that pocket right
below
underneath of it. Yeah. And it's like, if you don't get down there quick,
You're just gonna
by
float
the
over 'em.
time your gear gets down there, you've passed all of the fish, you know? And it's kind of like the scenario there with Chase. It's like, well, I know there's fish there. Why am I not catching fish? And it's like, well, if your gear is never getting down to those fish for them to see it, then you're not going to catch fish, you know? But that's a prime example of getting down there fast, because it's like that pocket is so small that if you do not get that gear down there immediately after that whitewater, you're, by the time that gear gets down there, you're past all the fish. I mean, it's just, it's so important to get down there. And there's a little store that is right there by that fishery that has finally gotten like privy to this situation. And I noticed the last time I was in there that they had 3 ounce salmon plates in there, you know. So
Are you talking about the store I think you're talking about?
yeah, I mean,
Where
well,
we weigh our
we
fish?
already said the North Umpqua River. So
I know,
mean, I'm not
okay.
a big
They
Idlewild
finally got 'em.
store outside of, you know, right by the Narrows and whatnot on the North Umpqua
We
River.
might as well say it.
That's where the store is. Yeah, but I didn't say where the hole is. The hole's not in the
Oh
Narrows.
no.
But yeah, I mean, there's circumstances where you got to get that gear down immediately, or you're gonna miss those fish. And I really like what Kevin threw onto there, that you know, keep in mind that the water temperature is pretty much gonna dictate right where those fish are at. The pressure that they are under will kind of dictate that as well. They'll start out in that comfort zone of, you know, like salmon, man, that 52 degrees is just banging hot. Like when I go out to the ocean, I'm just going to keep going until I hit 52 degrees. You know, like I'm not stopping to fish at 51 degrees. I'm not stopping to fish at 50 degrees. And if I've hit 53 degrees, I've gone too far. I'm turning around and I'm getting back to 52 degrees, you know. But you can see how, like in the river, The surface might be a different temperature than the middle column of the river or down at the very bottom of the river. And that's going to kind of help dictate to the fish where they're going to want to sit within the water column. But they will move. I want to note that
Sunny day versus the cloudy day.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, even though they're 40-pound fish, I find it hilarious to see all
A sparrow.
but yeah,
Scare a
you,
whole
right,
school of
you
salmon.
see a robin fly over top of the river and cast a shadow across the river, and you'll watch 40-pound Chinook go "Oh," and start running from that shadow. You know, they don't realize that 40 pounds now and the birds are not going to be able to pick them up. They just remember when small fish and all their buddies were getting taken away by birds, you know, so they're not willing to mess around anymore. They see a bird shadow and they're out, you know, and they over the time as they become an adult, they began to recognize shadows of sharks or seals, or you know, they've just kind of gotten into this rhythm that shadow means bad news, you know. So I wanted to mention that your salmon are gonna move around too. You know, one of the greatest things that I really enjoyed about that deeper system, you guys, is that me and Jason would go, we would throw the deeper, we would see, say, for example, the fish are hanging out at 17 feet or so, you know, and like we would adjust our stuff so that we're fishing right in those fish's face. But then we would hook one, right? And as soon as we would hook one, we would obviously go to the whole battle of the fish, getting the net out, all the chaos of that, and we'd get our fish into the net. But then immediately after we caught that fish, I would redrift the deeper back through, and more often than not, the fish would move. They would no longer be at 17 feet. Now they would be down at 25 feet, 30 feet, you know, because a fish just got hooked in 17 feet of water and we stirred everything up. So it made those fish move. We would find that all the time with the deeper. We'd go, oh, now they're at 30 feet deep, you know, and we'd find that same success that because we know we would drop our gear to go down to where those fish are at and we would hook another fish. But then the same thing, we'd hook that second fish.
Now they're up to 12.
Yeah, we'd throw that deeper back out there and now they're at 12 feet deep. I highly recommend a deeper unit, you guys. It's just deeper.com. It's, you know, it's I thought I had my deeper shirt on today, but I guess I don't. I have my favorite people call me dad shirt, which is true. Got a lot of kids, so love all my children. But and Jason's like, oh yeah. I have 7 kids, so yeah. Call me crazy. It's okay. I am kind of crazy. So, but yeah, deepers are really, really cool. The fish are going to constantly move on you. But even without a deeper, you know, I want you guys to think about that though. Like if you're fishing a hole and you don't have a deeper, you don't have any kind of sonar, right?
Where do you know the
And
fish
you
are at?
figure it out, and all of a sudden you hook a fish at, you know, 12 feet deep or whatever. I implore you that on that next cast, I'll bet you those fish aren't going to be at 12 feet no. I mean, it obviously depends on the size of the river and how much space they have and all of that stuff. You know,
If they got
this
room to
river that
move,
we're
they're gonna
talking
move.
about, they're kind of in like a skin, you know, and it's like if you hook a fish at a certain depth, all the other fish can keep going, you know. So I implore that it's like you hook a fish at 12, even though everything tells you, oh, I found and I hooked a fish at 12 feet deep, maybe don't run the next cast at 12 feet deep. You drop that thing down another 5-6 feet, because I mean, in my experience, it seems like wherever they're at, when you hook one, they usually go a little bit deeper.
They'll move.
And then after you hook another one, then they'll come back up again. You know what I mean? So, but I you guys should get it. You really should. I have
Portable fish finder.
I mean, I have all kinds of gear that helps me like that, like the deeper sonar system that I can cast right from the bank. I got, you know, an underwater camera that I can put in line on my line and we can see what's going on, you know, and any of those extra tools that you can have really, really help. You know what I mean?
Just
really,
nothing
really
remote control. That's illegal in Oregon.
Yeah, you know, but like the underwater camera, you know, it's like I've thrown that before bottom fishing where we have like a floating worm coming up or whatever, you know. And I've seen before on the footage, and I can review the. I can't see it live like as we're fishing, but I can pull it right out of the water, and then I can look at it immediately. But I've seen circumstances, where I throw that thing out there, and I should say, because I am currently working with this company, and they do great things for me, and I just want to make sure that you guys know what I'm talking about. I've got one of these. I got the Canfish lure camera, okay, and it's just this nice little sleek inline camera. Ties on to the rod right there, and you got your bait or your lure or whatever ties off of this rod, and then the camera is sitting there staring at it. This is a really good one. There's a lot of different companies out there, to be totally honest, guys, from like
It's annoying how many fish it shows.
stuff like that. This thing is super sweet. Everything about it's all wireless, so there is no like charging port or anything. It's a wireless charging, and it's a wireless transfer for the data that's on it. And what that does is that this thing is completely sealed instead of having a port. And so this guy can go really deep. Like this can go 600 feet underneath the water. It has its own night vision IR built into it, so it can still see when it's down that deep and whatnot. This one's just a lot better quality than all the other ones I've seen on the market. And I would definitely say that the reason why is because the company that makes it is called Chasing Innovations. And Chasing Innovations, like number one bread and butter, is like $40,000 ROVs for like diving on shipwrecks and stuff like that, that you see on the Discovery Channel and whatnot. And their company, somewhere along the lines, decided to go ahead and make a fishing lure camera. It's not really their main forte, but you can see how a company that builds $40,000 to $100,000 super badass saltwater ROVs, like they're gonna know what they're doing when they build a simple little camera like that. So I know most of the other competitors and whatnot go anywhere near 600 feet deep. Just in my opinion, I've used some of the other ones too, and I love that one. But back to the whole thing, throwing it out there, it's got a floating worm on it, you know what I'm saying? And I can literally see when I review the footage that my leader's not long enough. All of the fish are up above the floating worm. And again, we had just had the topic that fish don't look down. You know what I mean? So I'm not catching anything with that worm floating under the fish. I need to increase that leader and get that worm to come up to where the fish are hanging out. But I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for technology, So, cameras, sonar, live scope, deep.
I would go sonar first. Don't go camera, because you throw that out there, it's gonna piss you off.
I mean, I will admit that this camera. Every time I throw this camera, I get a little nervous, and I try to throw it on like a nice beefy rod that's got some good braid on it, the main line to the camera, and then from the camera to the gear, I'm obviously going to put a lot lighter line on it because that's where I want it to break if anything goes bad, But for example, I threw it at a place here called Wickiup Reservoir, and I threw it in just one of these locations where as soon as I look, I mean, the best way I can describe it, guys, is imagine a graveyard, like tombstones, only they were all stumps. Yeah. And I don't know how the heck I did not get that camera snagged on one of those stumps, but as soon as I looked at that footage, my immediate reaction was, well, I'm never throwing that camera in that spot again.
Yeah. The only reason I don't like his camera, we took it down to one of the rivers. We're fishing there for hours and hours and hours, casting lures and nothing. He throws out his camera, 200 salmon in the hole, nothing's biting.
And they're literally
like, they're there, but you can't hook
lures and stuff, but they just wouldn't commit.
You got that video?
I will give it to Jason. Yeah, I mean, I think I can pull it up on my like YouTube or something. But
Imagine fishing for 6 hours and he casts the camera, pulls it up, looks at the footage, and there's 150 Chinook in it.
yeah, I mean, it was brutal. It really was brutal. You know, it's a love-hate tragedy
Oh,
because it's like I love to be able to see what's going on down there. And then you're presented with those situations, like you know that you've taken 200 casts in the last 2 hours, and literally every single cast you had salmon chasing the lure, and not a single
Yeah.
one of them bit the lure. You know, it's like, oh, it just hurts.
oh
Yeah.
it's horrible.
Okay, here,
Horrible.
I got the. I got lazy. Let me go screen share.
Yeah, I mean,
Go right here. Oh, this one.
this is days of fishing, hours upon hours of fishing.
Okay, yeah. So here we go. Let me go.
You know.
'Cause it is on the channel. You can go see it, but I can just pull it up.
Where
on
is
the
it?
channel. Here you go, right here. Here you go. Take a look at this, guys. I mean, and there's a few of them that are like they swipe real close. You know, like
And we're casting for hours and hours. I mean, 10 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night.
it's gonna show an ad, of course. Come on. It's so slow.
Oh, yeah.
There we
Okay,
go.
here's his lure.
Yeah. There it is, right there, and then look. Oh,
Oh, there's the first
coming
salmon.
up, and tries to swipe at it.
Now, where's the one?
Yeah,
where
oh
it
yeah,
goes
no,
to
right
wolf
here,
pack?
right here. It's coming up here. It's
There's
coming up.
one.
Yeah, so here you go. Look at salmon,
Salmon, salmon, salmon, salmon,
I mean,
salmon,
there's more than
salmon,
200 salmon. I mean, look at
You
him.
fishing this for 12 hours and not
coming,
getting a
you
bite.
Look at that. All of salmon right there. There's got to be 300 salmon just in that one big club.
That's why I say don't get a camera. It'll pitch off.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? The gear helps, guys. Gear definitely
Gear does help,
from
but
sonar to cameras.
at least we know there's fish in the hole.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Kevin, you got anything that you want to say, like in conclusion or anything? We've been live for an hour and 44 minutes, so
Yeah, I do. I know when we were talking about like the water fishing a hole and stuff like that. I see a lot of guys that will sit there and cast in like muddy water all the way across.
And I just catch my first fish, Dad.
I know you just caught your first fish, buddy. But so anyway, inside like the visibility and stuff like that, like in clear water.
good job, buddy, on your first fish.
They said good job, buddy.
And now
But
Ram caught his first fish. He's the winner.
yep, you're the winner.
You're the winner too, Dad.
But so anyway, on visibility, like some of the salmon and stuff like that, if you're fishing creeks or rivers or stuff, a lot of them like to have that current flowing through their gills like crazy, especially in the clear water and sitting in pools and stuff like that. Also, as the water gets murkier and you have sediment coming down the water, a lot of those fish are going to push closer to shore. And I'll see a lot of guys casting clear across the whole lake and river or wherever they're fishing when the fish could be 5-6 feet from the shore because they don't want to get all that sediment inside their gill plates. So if you're out there fishing, take a look, see what's coming down the river, guys, and pinpoint where you're going to cast. Those fish can literally be 5-6 feet from you. I mean, just down below, they're trying not to work with the current as strong when getting all that sediment inside their gills and everything like that, so that they'll push closer into shore. And so you don't have to make such far casts out there. So take that in accountability on your bobber lengths and everything like that, because the closer you are, you're going to want to shallow up big time. I mean, I've caught steelhead, salmon within 5 feet from the bank, especially in muddy water. So just look at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this guy here, old Jason Grandmaster Salmon, took this guy over to the Rogue River one time, and I am casting all the way across the river, all the way, and I'm trying to work the middle pocket and all that, and Jason is just literally sitting in his chair.
Watching South Park.
And he is literally watching South Park on his phone, sitting in his chair, and he's drifting this teeny tiny little eddy that's just right there next to the bank,
3 feet from the bank.
I can't express that the tip of his rod can literally just reach down and tap the top of his bobber, right?
Oh, from my tip of my rod to my bobber was 2 feet.
And we've been fishing all of 2-3 minutes, and I'm telling Jason, I'm like, all the fish are out in the middle of the river, and boom, all of a sudden Jason gets a bobber down, hooks the fish. It's a fish that's capable of being harvested. He tags the fish, and I'm sitting there going, man, I can't believe you caught one just so close. I mean, you could have literally smacked your bobber with the tip of your rod, right? And Jason's all confident. Well, I'm going to catch another one, dude. I am not kidding you. In 10 minutes of being there, Jason has drifted 2 bobbers,
2 eggs,
right
2 drips
next to him. And he has limited out. And needless to say, I'm going, well, now that you're limited, move over. Let me drift that,
Yeah, 2 casts, 2 eggs, 2 drifts, 2 fish, done in less than 10 minutes.
Another thing that's really, really big, too, like I remember there's on the main stem of the Umpqua River. I can give this away because it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe you guys can help be pissed for me. Was a wreck site on the main stem of the Umpqua River called Bunch Bar. It was down the 38, and it's in between Scottsburg
and Elkton.
And Elkton, yeah. And I don't know. It honestly makes me angry, guys. It was a official state.
It was a state park
site that had the the brown sign, and everything for it, and it had
concrete outhouse.
Yeah, concrete outhouse and all this.
Table.
I don't know what gave the state the legal right, but they just decided that they were going to shut it down and sell that land to a private landowner. And so now it is no longer a wreck site that us as the public can access, and it's all private property.
There for 40 years.
But one thing that I always remembered about Bunch Bar when we would go and fish it is that when you walk down, I mean, dude, 9 out of 10 times when I would go fish that spot, as you walked up to the river, you would spook fish right next to the bank. And I started getting real privy to that as we fished more and more on this. And, I would start approaching Bunch Bar a lot more ninja, if that makes sense, and really try to stay away from the edge of the water and kind of go upriver a little bit and work my stuff down right along the edge of the river where I would typically be standing. And that was successful. It's those fish are not always hanging out way out there or right in the middle of the river. Sometimes they are literally right at your feet. Sometimes they're in 6 feet of water instead of 16 feet of water. I mean, it just always work it all. When I go salmon fishing with, bobber setups, one of the things that I like to do is I will go if I have sonar and I'm able to see where the fish are, that's one thing. But if I'm blind and I don't have sonar, I'll usually start somewhere at 3 or 4 feet on the bobber stop. And then what I want to do is I'm going to drift right by the bank, and then I'm going to drift a couple more feet out, and then a couple more feet out, and a couple more feet out, and just kind of keep doing that until I've drifted through all of the zones of the river, right? All the seams. and a seam, just, that's kind of, you can tell the difference between fast moving water and slower moving water, and right there on the edge of that, that's a seam, just to kind of give that a little description. But and then what I'll do is I'll take the bobber stopper and I'll drop it down like another 2 feet, and I'll repeat that process. I'll drift all those seam lines all the way out across the river, and if nothing's doing there, then I'll go ahead and drop it 2 more feet and work along that seam. But I'm not kidding you, man. Like, every time I would go to Bunch Bar, we got Kevin back again. Every time I would go to Bunch Bar, we would walk down there and you would immediately spook fish that were literally, dude, sitting on the bank. At that place, they were literally sitting in like a foot to a foot and a half of water.
Just barely enough to cover their back.
Sticking out of the water right where you're going to stand, So always be on that, me personally, man, when I approach a river, like a lot of times, and it doesn't matter if I'm rainbow trout fishing, brown trout fishing, whatever. And there is a really cool video on my channel where I caught, I think the title says, steelhead on the first cast or something like that, big steelhead on the first cast. But if you watch that video, I'm literally doing that. Like, I tell everybody in the video, I'm like showing them the river, and I'm like, look at the river and look at how I need to walk right here along the bank, but the sun is right behind me and my shadow is going to cast right there on the bank. And I explain to the camera how we're going to be really careful about that. And we're going to walk all the way around and avoid getting right next to the bank and avoid letting our shadow cast on it. And lo and behold, guys, I throw my spinner. It works over by the bank, and literally a foot off of the bank, boom, first cast, nice steelhead, So, sometimes those
we
fish.
went to Gold Beach a couple of weeks ago, and you filmed that steelhead 2 feet off the bank.
Yeah, if you guys didn't see that, there's a short on my channel where I found a steelhead chilling on the Rogue River, and it's just, dude, the thing is literally in like less
6
than
inches
a
of water.
foot of water, it's just chilling. So
You had a big rock, you could have hit it.
yeah.
It wouldn't have been legal, but you could have.
Anything else that you would like to add to this, Kevin? We're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and we're gonna wrap this up.
We're going fishing.
No, I think we covered pretty much, a lot of it.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, just try to keep in mind too that this video is going to exist. Oops, let me turn that down. This video is going to exist on the channel after we have already concluded with live and everything. You're still totally welcome to write a comment. You can write a comment of anything, obviously, but if you write a question in the comments, we're going to continue to come back to this video's comments and continue to ask or answer questions. Obviously, right now, while we're live, it's a lot easier for us to address the question and just literally talk about it face to face. Whereas later, as you write a comment, we're obviously going to reply in text and try to answer your question. But if you ask a good enough question or something, we may spin off a whole nother live stream about that topic or make a video on that topic or anything like that. And in conclusion, I do want to say that, me buying these microphones and all that to up our audio quality and everything for these live streams, I've totally taken it as a big deal that I want to start doing this a lot more often on the channel, guys. Me and Jason here had even kind of come up with a name. We want to call it Fish and Lips, a place where we not only rip lips, but we talk about it, right? So we're not just ripping lips, but we're also using our lips to talk about these experiences and learn things. I want to try and maybe start making it like a regular scheduled type thing. We will see how that transpires, because I do know that it is a lot easier to tune into something like this when it is scheduled and it happens week after week, same day, same time, all of that. It makes it easier. But yeah, we already started doing some cheesy stuff. Like we're going to call it Fish and Lips. This is the greatest place to talk about fishing while you're eating your fish and chips, just cheesy stuff like that. But yeah, so we want to get together and we want to start doing this a lot more often. This one obviously is more in that geared towards beginners, but I would like to start doing live episodes that are, geared specifically towards salmon or geared specifically towards steelhead, and lots of other topics that we could cover easily on this channel. So, guys, I'm good. We've been live for almost 2 hours, gentlemen. We've done a good job. 3 experts right here for you guys, giving you lots and lots of information. If you just tuned in, go back to the beginning of this, watch it from the very beginning. You're going to get a lot of good information inside here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. Like the video, all of those things. And if you want to take your support even beyond that, I don't always pitch it, but down underneath of this, down where like the comment and like and share buttons are all at, I do believe you have to be subscribed to the channel for the button to show up. I might be wrong, but there is a button called a super thanks, and that does give you the ability that if you feel like donating to the channel, you can donate $1, $2, $1,000, whatever. Obviously, it helps us out. We get paid for you guys to just simply watch and share this video. That always helps. But camera equipment, microphones, and it's not all free. So any kind of support to the channel, we always absolutely love. Definitely make sure to go and check out all of Kevin's stuff. Columbia River Platform, that's going to be on Facebook. He's also got a YouTube channel for it. Go show him some love. Go check out my boy Tyler at Little Captain's Tackle. That's also on Facebook. It's also on a website, littlecaptainstackle.com. Show us some support, some love. We love coming here and showing you support and love. So until next time, guys, that's always my call sign for going out. Until next time, guys, we will see you.
Fish on.
Tight lines.